Technology, S&P Global. Ranjan, Bhasin, Senior Director, IT, Greystar Services, India Private Limited. Deepesh, Rastogi, Chief Technology Officer, Cloud Experts, LLP. Sahil, Mungar, Chief Strategy Officer, Tanfeeth. And we have panelist moderator, that is Professor Dr. Anupama Rajesh. She has a teaching experience of about 24 years, including international assignments, which include a teaching stint in London, Australia, France, Singapore, etc., as well as the training of Italian and French delegates and students. She has written more than 100 research papers and case studies for prestigious international journals and 9 books and several book chapters to her credit. She is reviewer of renowned Sage and Emerald journals. So let's welcome our panelists and the moderator.
So can we have a big round of applause for Dr. Anupama Rajesh to begin up with the session.
Thank you so much. So it is my pleasure and honor to be the proverbial sutradhar, or if I translate it into English, the thread that ties such beautiful, pearls and maybe pearls of wisdom together. And it is so wonderful and so pertinent to talk about unlocking the potential of AI for business transformation. And we are going to delve into all kinds of discussions on strategy, planning, applications in business, ethical and responsible AI, something which I'm passionate about. There can be no academics, or there cannot be a teacher without the right dose of ethics. And of course, workforce transformation and future trends. We really are scared where the AI is going into. So our day begins really, if you ever think about it, with say some AI in the morning with your Alexa playing your favorite songs or bhajans, if you're my age. No academics, so there cannot be a teacher without the right dose of ethics. And of course, workforce transformation and future trends. We really are scared where the AI is going into. So our day begins really, if you ever think about it, with say some AI in the morning with your Alexa playing your favorite songs or bhajans, if you're my age. Then goes on to your, your GPS, which takes you everywhere, Google, which tells you all the things you want to know. Goes on to your lunchtime, and tells you which restaurants to go for. In case of a professor like me, we have to fight with bot-written assignments and ensure that they don't fool us. And of course, ends with maybe a Netflix and your favorite shows. So AI is actually all-encompassing. And I have these brilliant panelists with us, which will tell us different facets, different shades of AI. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to them. And let me just start. And they are in no particular order. With us academics, it's a huge ego issue. So no particular order. We have Miss Sonia Thakurani. She has over 21 years of experience and specializes in leading teams in data engineering that explore solutions to enhance customer journeys and online customer experience management, especially in the age of augmented reality. Sonia currently leads the data platforms team at Merkle. She's also responsible for leading development of analytical tools that automate data analysis and auto insights by leveraging configurable, human-centered computing frameworks. Sonia recently won the Women in AI Leadership Awards 2022. Many congrats. We have Ms. Anjum Khan. She's working as the head of product technology at S&P Global. She is versatile, accomplished, and goal-oriented professional with over 23 years of experience in application design and architecture, with proven track record of delivering transformative business results through innovation and application of sound management and leadership practices. In her current role, Anjum is providing strategic and technical expertise to a globally distributed team for transforming the multi-million-dollar business using the power of cloud, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. Going on to Sahil. Mr. Sahil Mungar
is an internationally accomplished business and technology transformation executive with 17 years of global experience. Skilled in defining business architectures, digital transformation, and go-to-market strategies, he incorporates digital technology and process engineering to improve operations and has experience in RPA, NLP, BPM, and AI technologies to streamline processes and leveraging analytics to monitor performance. He is currently serving as a CSO responsible for strategy, BPO and contact center solutions, analytics, process engineering, business development, marketing, PMO, workforce management for the BPO company. Welcome. Mr. Deepesh Rastogi is working as a CTO at Cloud Experts LLP, a versatile leader and full-stack director technology with 24 plus years in IT, drives innovation via technology incubators, adept in secure digital transformation, B2C and B2B e-commerce, IoT, mobile and cloud integration. Leads complex projects, crafting engaging user experiences for customers across the globe. Trusted by C-level executives, excelling in digital roadmaps, architecture, and multi-million-dollar projects with 360 customer views. Welcome. And lastly, and definitely not the least, Mr. Ranjan Bhasin works as Senior Director, Information Technology at Greystar Services India Private Limited. Carries 21 plus years of total experience where he has led multiple teams of infrastructure, service desk, automation, and data analytics. Ranjan is currently setting up automation team with Greystar India. Ranjan is an IT Next Top 100 CIOs 2023 winner. Congratulations. So congratulations. That's a lot. I think the intellectual capital just here would be unsurmountable. So starting without much ado, let's start with ladies first. So hi Anjum, based on your remarkable 23 years of experience working in the IT industry, where do you think the potential of AI can be unlocked to transform the businesses in various domains?
Thanks Anupama for asking this question. I think covering the AI business use cases across all the industries in 2-3 minutes is quite a vast topic, but if I still have to categorize and based on my understanding, the simplest use case of AI which I see is automation. The AI technologies like robotic process automation helps organizations build operational efficiency and increase their productivity by automating various labor-intensive, repetitive, time-consuming tasks like workforce management, data entry, or billing, or similar of that sort. So health industries, especially for maintaining the patient records, right? The technology people doing their support engineering work just by automating all these things is really helping. The second use case I see is the data analysis and insights. So when we are talking about AI, data is the essential key, and it's not a small data. I mean, we are working on the large data sets, and the data insights, identify the patterns within the data and provide you the information so that the management can really make the informed decisions. So I think this is really a very good use case being used across all of the industries, right? The second is the predictive analysis. The third one, if I talk about, is the predictive analytics. And when I say predictive analytics, because AI models or generative AI nowadays quite in talk, work on the historic data and can analyze and build patterns and even, provide the forecasting and predictions about what future looks like. And that is really helping organization in planning better and using the resources optimally and cutting down the cost like anything, saving on the resources. Then comes the personalization. I think many of us talked about Amazon, Netflix. So based on the user preferences and behaviors, providing the personalized recommendation. So everybody wants to feel special, and people like us as customers, if we see the recommendations that, okay, if you have bought this product, you may like this. If you watch this movie, this is 93% match, is doing a lot of work, which is like quite a mundane job for our brains to operate upon. Right, and then talking about the NLP, or the natural language processing, quite in a buzzword. The sentimental analysis, if you are based on the past review on a movie comment, how the new movie would look like, the sentiment analysis, the text summarization, or what you say, the language translation. And the best case of NLP is around chatbots and voice assistants, which is providing round-the-clock support to most of the organization, has improved the customer satisfaction and engagement and service. Then comes the image and video analysis. The cyber crimes are now using for the object recognition and image classification, video surveillance. So the cases are like huge here. If you talk about the risk assessment and fault detection, because AI models are quite advanced and smart enough to detect anomalies and warn all of us early in the stage for any such risk, which can be assessed and mitigated quite in time. And marketing, I think AI is playing a huge role in role in optimizing the marketing campaigns, because they can analyze the user behaviors, they can target the right market segment, and even the personalized comments based on what a person may be interested in. So I think I can go on and on, Anupama, here. But what I'm saying is all these common use cases are presenting and reflecting the versatility and the impact AI is creating in all of the industries, and even in automation, in data-driven decision-making. So I think all of us should really, it's a quite high time, we should, even if you have not started, start looking for and identifying such AI use cases and start building that culture within organization to make the best use of it. And you never know what next is lying there in the technology field. So thank you. Over to you, Anupama.
So one takeaway, just like your DDLJ, we have the D cube M, which is now becoming the buzzword, which is data-driven decision-making. So wonderful point there. Ranjan, I was reading something that you had written, and something which really fascinated me was, why do you say technology is a commodity?
Okay, so I'll touch upon this, but I think that we need to understand what Anjum just said. It requires a lot of strategy and planning before we build on those use cases. And the overall strategy and planning, in my mind, I've always seen majority of things in these three buckets, which I will talk through and I'll share. One is our people, second is process, and third is data. We just talked about data. And yes, you made a fair point. We have been talking about people, process, and technology, but technology is a commodity in nowadays. Let me just share a little bit more details on the people, process, and data perspective with respect to our strategy and planning for all the work that we intend to do, or that we want to do, or that we want to build up. Now for people, we need to ensure that we have a dedicated function or a sub-function within our organization which just focuses on AI, machine learning, analytics, whatever is the word that you want to give to that function. There should not be any dual responsibility of that function or sub-function. Second, under people should be the extensive learning and development that we have to focus on. Now, I categorize people in any organization in two sections. One is people who develop AI embedded solutions, and all others. Now, all others should also get trained, but to a basic level. Now, people who create those solutions, they have to get into a little bit more nuances and details, like neural networks, like algorithms, like cloud, like DevOps. All of that training has to be done. Third, under people is the organization have to do a lot of boot camps so that they need to evangelize the accomplishments, what they have achieved so far. And this is all, just to remind all of us, this is all we're talking about strategy and planning for AI into our organization. Fourth, under people pillar is ambassadors. We need to just get more of our ambassadors across different functions. We've got human resources, technology, facilities, operations. We need to have point of contacts and go to people within these sub-functions or functions so that our work becomes easier and there is a push and pull of the thoughts between the central function and the rest of the organization. The second pillar, the first was people, the second pillar is process. Now with respect to process, we need to, Anjum talked about various different use cases, but is it a responsibility of one person to get that use case or that one dedicated function? I don't think so. It is a responsibility of the whole organization, and that's why there has to be an idea platform where people can submit their thoughts and get even rewarded. But we have to be very careful that function will do the governance job of filtering those ideas. If I want to get into a door, I can do a access card. I don't want a facial recognition, you know. If you want to really make a brand out of it, that's fine. But there is no fun in unnecessarily putting AI where it is not required. So, you know, we have to be very, very careful about the AI, whether it fits the use case or not. Then an important piece, which I think it is untouched across the globe, I believe, and it's a very, very humongous task, which is data quality and governance. Now, the moment I start entering, the gentleman was talking about the passport, I start entering my data, and the moment it is eliminated or destroyed, the whole life cycle needs to be maintained, governed, and the quality has to be maintained. We can talk in detail. The stopwatch is not letting me to actually talk more on that, but we can talk detail, you know, later. Now, other than these data governance and quality, we have to ensure have the delivery playbook and support playbook, maintaining, monitoring the whole the AI cases which we embed in our environment. Now, the third pillar is data. I talked about people, then process, then data. Now, data means that we have to have a clear strategy of what do we want to store, what do we not want to store, how do we want to share the data, how do we want to use it. All of those nuances have to be clearly documented and shared across the organization, and even more talked about it, so that people do not go out of bounds to actually you know, take undue advantage of that. So that's data strategy. And then of course, for that function, I'm just putting a common thing between the people and this data. You have to have a chief data officer in the organization. Maybe a dual responsibility is fine. Last bit under data is to have a well-defined architecture guideline, right? We just talked about, you know, computer vision, we talked about chatbots. We have to ensure that our organization ingests images, ingests audio, ingests video, ingests social networking graph data. All of that has to be embedded, and all of that has to be incorporated. And then last thing, I just want to cover up, you know, that honestly, doesn't matter, don't care whether we use Python, whether we use TensorFlow, whether we use BERT. The objective is our business case. So the common theme across all is your financials. Your financials should actually support your use cases. I believe I have tried my best to answer this question.
Wonderful. So thank you for making the point that ultimately people are the boss and technology is not going to take us over in any time soon. But one subsidiary question to you. You're talking about that people are very important, and you've mentioned something called the CDO, or the Chief Data Officer. I understand in bigger organizations that may be a possibility, but what do you think if we have very small organizations? How can we have so many people working for one mission?
Yeah, so see, this is not a fully dedicated role that we may want to imagine. It can be a virtual role which can be given to any individual whose deliverables and responsibilities are closer to data. Because we just heard many professionals talking about that AI has the base of data. Even if somebody understands this better, he or she can certainly assume that role. There is no, what I meant was a dedicated function means dedicated focus on AI and not just creating, 100 people just working on that where we don't have even cost approvals.
Thank you so much. I think that clarified that point. So we'll move to the ladies again. Sonia, from your perspective, what could be the challenges around data management, which is really very, very important for AI solutions?
Okay, so when we say data management, firstly, like I said, any AI solutions needs a data layer that powers it, and data management comes to the fore. Let's take a simple use case. If we have a global brand, like let's assume an automotive company. Usually all of these automotive brands, they fall under one very larger brand. So there will be one global brand with multiple sub-brands globally operating, having their own data structures, having their own languages, having their own multiple products, and all of this data actually belongs to this one core brand. So if the brand has to control a messaging, let's say their, for the sake of example, the global brand has decided that by 2030 we are going to be net carbon neutral. Now to do that, they need to be able to manage data across all of these 15 sub-brands and then another 20, 30 products from each brand globally. Now bringing them all together needs some function or needs some core teams looking at different parts of this data. One, like Ranjan said, the architecting, the structure, the models of this data, the acquisition, bringing them all together in a central place, making sure the quality is making sense. So obviously when you have data coming in from numerous sources, the quality will be conflicted. Then the security and of course the transformations, and there's a host of activities that are done to prep and use that data to drive decisions, to drive insights, to drive campaigns, MarTech. That is the premise of data management. Now when we put it in such a definition itself, the challenges start peeking out, right? So when we talk about acquisition, if you are going to bring in data from all of these different organizations, brand sources, so let's think of it. Each of those brands may have existed solitary at some point of time. They may have been acquired. So before they were acquired, they had their own structure and own patterns. Now when they come into a global brand, we have to now understand their language and bring it to the same thing. So all of the data speaking different languages is the first challenge, especially when we work with AI solutions. Second will be, so the 5 V's that one of our chief guests mentioned before. Variety of data, the velocity of data. So when we're talking about AI solutions, the speed at which real-time data is being captured, and the kind of technology we need to even support it, forget work on it, even to just support and scale without making or breaking that solution is massive. Volumes, the veracity, the accuracy of data that is coming in, how many of them are duplicates, how many of them actually exist, and how much of this behavior data that we are looking at is not bots. So all of this, when you bring it, that's the first major challenge when we talk about data management. Second, like Ranjan mentioned, quality. So while quality from a boardroom is a very important topic, but actually getting into the data and making sure every single feed or every single layout that comes in is to the point, captures everything. So if you have Anupama, all of Anupama's buying behaviors across multiple channels, across multiple brands are speaking the right thing, and it is not some other Anupama's data which has gotten married into your data, where suddenly then you'll be buying sports gears because the data is not clean enough. So that's the second part of it. The third part will be, of course, what we heard was the security. So the kind of access this humongous data should have, should not have. Like when we work on this data, getting developers access to this data itself is a task. Sometimes they are asked for their personal details, IDs and all, to prove that you are Sonia who's going to develop. You're not some nameless person sitting in some corner of the world who's going to play with the data. So that is the third important thing. Fourth is, imagine now when we spoke about global data, think about all the data privacy laws which are different in different regions. So we have GDPR somewhere, we have HIPAA compliance somewhere, we have CCPA somewhere, and then there's the Asia Pac side has another set of laws. Now, because I am the organization that owns this data, it is my responsibility that my data speaks to all of these regulations. Now, that also will fall under data management challenges. And lastly, which is not very much spoken about, but on the ground reality is the speed at which technology is changing today. Okay? For me, if I have invested this huge amount of data in one technology, all done, all data is married, everything is done, my solutions are powered, I dust my hands, I sit back, and something even more powerful has hit the market, even before I could take a breath. Now I will have numerous stakeholders telling me, what are you doing in this outdated technology? Why are you not on Snowflake? Why are you not on Databricks? Why are you not using Snowpark? And as decision makers, you'll be like, okay, should I migrate? Now, that migration itself is another humongous task across all of the data that you've collected. So these are like the top challenges that today organizations face with their data.
That's a very insightful thought. But I'm going to ask you a chicken and egg question. So do you think AI, sorry? So do you think AI can also play a role in all the data management we're talking about?
Absolutely. It is already playing. I think Anjum also hinted to some of them. Now, even all of these pieces that we spoke about, right? Acquisition. Making sure that the 5 data feeds of one particular brand of mine come on a particular day and not one file is corrupted. AI can help monitor, track, signal immediately when something is missing, and also make small fixes to make sure that that pipeline that we have built from the source to the data warehouses is not broken. So starting there, let's talk about transformation. So when we have data coming in from multiple places, AI can actually figure out what that data structure A looks like, what data structure B looks like, and what the should be data structure is, or the schema is. And it can go ahead and make those transformations. Third, if you talk about integrations, integrations and transformations we spoke about, then let's, quality. Deduping, masking, all of these things, data, today AI can easily take care of. Then we talk about security, and I think Anjum also talked about it, is AI has the capability to read through data, look at anomalies and predict that this is not a real user or this is not a correct thing. There could be a potential malware operating in this entire thing, and immediately take action or block it. From a governance and regulations angle also, AI is being used significantly to be able to instantly call out which data point is not compliant with certain regulation and ask us to delete it. Storage and archival, AI plays very easily a role in being able to decide what pieces of data set is being used at what frequency, archive it, retrieve it, all of that. And of course, Gen AI, the ability of Gen AI to generate new texts, generate images plus text, and I don't know, tomorrow it will be something else, it may generate, it already is generating music. So the ability of it to generate new samples so that your decision making is a little more nuanced, little more powerful than what it would have been when data is missing. It's very easy to say data was not there. That's another thing that's happening today. And lastly, there's also data. So while all of this is happening, there are also this data platforms as a concept that has come in that uses a lot of this AI and allows organizations easily to connect A to Z. And I hope I answered that.
Thank you so much. Deepesh, over to you. So, what new opportunities might arise as AI and augmented reality, which is AR, and virtual reality, which is VR, technologies converge?
Sure, thanks, Anupama. Quite an interesting futuristic perspective. Now, when we talk of VR, virtual reality, and AR, we think of, as soon as we talk about it, we think of gaming, we think of a furniture store where you can go and do a VR and AR activities. In fact, virtual reality for me goes back to 1999 when I was working with AT&T to create a virtual society where people will come together and they are playing chess. Of course, that was quite new for all of us, and it didn't go too far. And then came the furniture stories and other, and now you know of something called as metaverse, right? A lot of people talk about it hasn't taken to a place where it should be, and talk about its failures. But I'll tell you, with AR, VR, and AI coming in now, the convergence will take it to the next level of mixed reality. Now, if I take a fast forward this whole event, today we are in 2023, right, and I take it to 2050. We have our friends who have come from different countries, and we have come from different places together in this event. If it was a mixed reality event with a holographic 3D immersive technologies and these technologies coming together, we don't even actually have to go to an event physically. We can have a holographic picture or images, or 3D images out there, sitting there as a natural person, and attend that event like a normal physical. So it's an immersive experiences, which we are talking about in future, where you have a near digital experience, near physical experience, in the same place where there is a virtual and the physical reality work together. Right. So that's where I think this whole system is moving towards.
We've discussed several use cases in artificial intelligence, and being the age that I am, I'm most interested in knowing what role will AI play in shaping the future of healthcare, including diagnostics, treatment, and patient care.
Sure, thanks for that. In fact, when I was trying to work on this question, I thought of creating a list of use cases for healthcare. And frankly, the kind of startups who are working on this healthcare domain, there were 1,000+ use cases only and the startups who are really working on this for the future of it. One of those was nanotechnology, which is quite interesting. They are talking about each one of us will have nanobots injected to our system, our bloodstream, by 2030. And what these nanobots will do, they will not only detect the diseases, cancers, tumors, they will also be used to pass on the payloads, drugs, and cure those diseases. And that's only in 2030 we are talking about. Not only that, they will also have the AR, VR connectivity. So if a doctor has to see a 3D picture of or a holographic image of your heart, running heart, they would be able to see that. Without your CT scans, large machines of CT scans, MRIs, they'll just use their goggles and they'll be able to see all that. So those kind of futuristic healthcare on treatment and diagnosis use cases where startups are working on today.
That sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie, really. And not that I'm very happy with it. Can't imagine a robo running in my bloodstream. Going on to you, Sahil. How do you foresee the effects of Gen AI and automation on the workforce of the future? Very pertinent. Jobs is where all the bread and butter is. So your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Doctor. I think, my colleagues have touched on a few important points. Anjum spoke about the use cases. Ranjan, I think you also touched a bit on people. And with this, the question really is around double-clicking onto the people. And arguably, organizations, in my opinion, should take a bit of a strategic approach towards the implementation of automation and AI. For one, we cannot transform the entire organization in one go, particularly if these are traditional-based organizations. From my perspective, if you have to almost consider, plotting a 2x2 matrix, think of it in a very simplistic way. There is on one axis the level of repetitiveness of a task or process being executed. And in the second axis, if you look at the volume of that task or process that's being executed in the organization, then add another layer on it, these bubble type of charts. And by the extent of that activity, you've got the volume, you've got the level of repetitiveness. Now throw in what is the organizational cost, and not just the people cost, the building cost, all the overheads that it entails to run this particular activity. And then, in my perspective, an organization will be able to prioritize which use cases you would want to automate and apply AI technologies to. But like I said, if you consider it as a 2x2, you effectively have on your top right quadrant your high repetitiveness and your high volume activity. These are ripe and prime for automation technologies. Things like robotics, things like RPA, NLP, and BPM type of technologies can come in to try and replace those activities completely. So the results would be that the people who are doing these technologies would be completely replaced by the technology, right? And what will happen to them is that, yes, we need to find something new for them, but let me speak about the organization benefit, because why do organizations do it? Pretty much, towards the bottom line, but more importantly for scale and for quality standardization, because people inherently are people, right? We have errors, we're not perfect. So your error rates as an organization through a people-run operation will always be fluctuating from a business process outsourcing perspective. I can tell you for certain back office processes, call center processes vary from person to person. Not to mention your business and the scalability of your business will also be dependent on how quickly you can ramp up people, ramp up buildings, ramp up, all the overhead. So technology then comes in and then gives you that scale advantage. And it gives you the quality and consistency. However, technology in itself also requires maintenance, it requires upkeep, it requires monitoring, building of new use cases. Now in the early stages, it's great for 2, 3, 4, 5 people who really understand the technology, the data analysts, the data scientists. Yes, they are the leaders, and they will give you those first few use cases, but it takes them time to build it as well. Now, plot a typical organization. We all sit within organizations. If you really start thinking about your processes or your activities that your organization does, it won't be in the hundreds, it'll start becoming in the thousands. Because go past and beyond your operational activities, look at your core or corporate activities, your HR department, finance department, etc. And then you have a different perspective of the scale and extent of the organization. So to be able to build this transformation and move it into the future, those people who are actually the SMEs, the people who are doing it at the bottom on a daily basis, they would be able to then code and build the bots and these, whether it's NLP or RPA, etc. They would build and code these bots based on their real world knowledge and understanding. And this talks to, the top right quadrant or the right-hand side of this 2x2. Then the interesting thing is we've always, had this notion in our minds that the non-repetitive tasks where we require human skill, human thought, human knowledge would always remain with humans, and that's starting to change. It's starting to change. It's starting to change because large language models, computer vision, distributed data sets, and so on, and unstructured data management is becoming far better as well. So now you have the ability to even replace the cognitive ability of the human being. And this then becomes even more interesting, right? Not just for organizations, but for people, for us as humans. And then, the question is, what do you now do with these cognitive functions? Yes, of course, you want to automate it from a business perspective. You want to drive that boundary. But at a people level, we now start becoming very task-related, right? Because the AI would be able to carry a large portion of the process, and it might hand over to a human being to read a piece of information if it's handwritten, or it'll start managing by exception, because the AI technologies in itself are based on confidence ratios, right, at the end of the day. So we'll say to the AI, you take a decision if it's 80% or 90% confidence, but if the confidence rate is low, then we'll hand it off to a human. But then that becomes quite interesting, because the human, even though there are still humans in the equation, do I need them on-premise anymore? No. With mobile technology, they could be at home, they could be out in a rural area, and I think I can relate, perhaps from the South African perspective and the Indian social perspective. We have rural communities, we have large portions of people in underdeveloped economies, or I think we spoke about digital penetration within the rural areas. But now these micro tasks, technologies like, Amazon Mechanical Turk, they start transforming how people start interacting, because you get paid for that activity you do at that point in time. So it spins out completely new industries, completely new forms of business that people can accomplish. So yeah, I think that will start becoming quite interesting in terms of how the workforces of the future will start to change.
Just a subsidiary question. What should organization be doing to maximize the opportunity of AI for the workforce?
So, look, I think maybe I may have touched on some of those points, but maximizing the opportunity of workforce, one would be around prioritizing those use cases that will give you the financial benefit initially. The scalability as well as the business cases need to start paying themselves off. So that should be almost a step one. Typically, although, this will also tend to impact some of the bigger workforces, depending on how operational a business is. But the more people that are affected, then, arguably there is an ethical implication. And what should you start doing? Should I start building in-house development and training programs? Arguably, yes, because, like I think I mentioned previously, you will need people to start building out these use cases at scale, eventually, or managing it, and being the mechanics of the robotics, being the quality assurers and so on. And then their roles and jobs will start to transform. So investing and identifying it early is good. Laying off a lot of people and then thereafter having to recruit them back, probably not a good strategy. But that will start giving those scale advantages from an organizational perspective. Maybe additionally to that is, organizations arguably start to think of things in a linear, traditional fashion and then apply the digital transformation. And I think what the AIs and the LLMs start allowing us to do is to start reimagining new products and services completely from a different perspective, without taking into account traditional, how the industry normally do it. It's what's the innovation and differentiation that I can bring into the equation. So I think these are two of the major advantages, opportunities organizations will have. Thank you.
I think we'll get the lady to have the last word. So Anjum, what should be the focus areas for any business before deciding to plan and implement any AI-based solution?
Thanks, Anupama. I think it's an interesting question. I think Mr. Golok simply also talked about the business goals and objectives. So I think before we jump into any setting up AI, infrastructure or teams, one should be very clear that where they're heading to, what kind of, vision they have in terms of solving the AI-related problems. So this business goals and objective is really very important, because at the end of the day, we will measure against it our success criteria. The second comes the budget and the cost. This, of course, without money, the things are not possible, because hiring the right talent, building that skill set. Ranjan talked about setting up a center of excellence, having a CDO, those kind of roles. And of course, it would require the technology. We talked about the data management platforms. And so technology, software, hardware, network, security. So many money is involved. So budget and costing is important. And what I believe is it's not just about money, but it's about setting up the culture within the organization that everybody starts thinking about data and AI so that they can converse better, they can express better about what exactly is being solved. Then comes the data strategy. I think we have already talked about that data is such an essential and the crucial part. It's not just about the quality and the quantity. Of course, it is important. You must be aware of that the cleanliness of data, how clean the data is, how relevant the data is. That is really, really important. And then comes the technology infrastructure. When we're talking about technology, it has to be really integrated because as I talked in the morning also, it's not just about data or AI, it's about applications, network, security, infrastructure. You could have you would require computational resources. We're talking about the big data storage, so cloud would be involved, mobile applications, on-prem, on-cloud applications. So technology infrastructure is very important. Then comes the modeling. When we're talking about the AI, we're talking about the LLMs and the large models. They work on the large data sets. So their performance, their effectiveness, and their scalability is also important. Of course, the data would play a key role, but what kind of data model are you selecting? What kind of, how are you, taking care of the precision of it? Because people are trusting your models and the outcomes and how precision and how right that outcome is very important. Then we are talking about the security, privacy, regulatory obligations, because we are playing with the data, and data if you're dealing with the human data, it is very, very sensitive aspect of it. Jenny talked about 129K. But for a single person like me, my own data is very much important. So I think we all are really doing a very important job of managing the data. So we have to be very, very cautious of the privacy, identifying those threats early in the stage. So cybersecurity measures also play a very important role. And I think Jenny also talked about, and Sonia also touched upon, that you must be really very, known of the fact which location, which industry you are working on. So your regulatory obligations and compliance obligations about GDPR or HIPAA or for any other such regulatory obligations, you should be very, very cautious of. Then nowadays we're talking about responsible AI. I think it's a fancy word, but this intent of serving the humanity with the right intentions and in the right way is always there. And I think it's the responsibility of any one of us who is building the AI solutions to be more explainable towards what results we are building in. It is really impacting, especially the kids. Those have started believing those tools like anything. If they put up a question and the answer comes in, they start believing as if it is right. And we're talking about generative, wherein the robots have started thinking more like human-like. You can understand if you remember the Chitti and everybody, those characters, right? So these can be really dangerous if we are really not responsible of how are we using the AI. And I think the last point is, it's not just that you're getting into, Ranjan also said that if you are building a solution, it really need not to be very complex, right? At the end, you're solving a business problem. It's not about technology to prove your technology metal there. It's about what problem are you solving. So measuring the return on investment, if you're really investing that much effort, if you're migrating from one technology to other technology, be very, very cautious of what are you serving to community or the business. So return on investment, measuring that against those parameters which you might have defined. So to conclude this whole conversation, I would say these, if organizations, there could be other focus areas, but to me, I think to summarize, if every organization and functional group pays attention to these focus areas, it would be easy for them to, align to the business objectives and would have a higher chances of success for any solution they implement. So thank you, Anupama.
I think of all the wonderful things that we've heard, technology can be a monster or your best friend. It's the devil is in the details, and it's all about management. So each one of us has talked about a different area of how it should be managed well. be it the price or the, execution of it. Just one lucky question. And rest you can just talk offline in the lunch.
So
Yeah.
one lucky
Yeah,
question
please go
is
ahead.
here. Okay, from. And who is the lucky person?
That one. And no prizes for that.
Getting the mic with the queue is very quick. So very quick for you all to, firstly, great, in fact, amazing insights all through left to right. We spoke about data, all of us. So we are taking for giving that data is enough. Are there other concerns to this? Because there are very recent researchers which talks about data, which now we have already labeled them as structured, semi-structured, and otherwise, or meaningful data and not so meaningful data. By 2026, on my prediction, is going to get over. The large language model of GPT-5 is what we see the last of it. So that means one of the challenges we're speaking about, Sonia, all of them are very pertinent. But this limitation of data was not there in, or I may have missed when you were speaking about it. Second, the bias and the hallucination of the present data. So these two things, definitely I tried to stitch in what you were speaking, but taking this as a giving or given, data is there, maybe this can boomerang. Your thoughts.
If you allow me, as an academician, I like to take the bias aspect of it. Depends, that is one of the case studies that I do in class, that all the AI models will obviously be trained on some kind of data sets. And if the data set that you're feeding in is biased, then you will get biased results. So one of very common case studies, and we'll take America not to ruffle any feathers in India, is that Harvard would have white, rich lawyer kids. And since that's happening for the last 200 years or 400 years, it's just going to continue that each of the admissions will get filtered at white, rich lawyer kids. So that's a very big thing that we need to look at, the bias and the ethics of data collection. And I'll let Sonia conclude.
So actually, that's a good call out. I should have spoken about bias, and it just got wrapped up under data quality. So yes, bias today exists. How much ever any organization pretends that it doesn't, there is always a certain amount of bias. And I also think there are people now responsible to recalibrate data across the different stages to make sure that bias is getting eliminated. So that's one. About how data will look like, it may, at least my 2 cents on that may be completely off, is the structured data may not exist. It may be largely unstructured, it may be largely behavioral or observed data rather than data that is actually, A, B, and C. And the way we mine insights from those kind of data, so it could be just a location and trying to figure out now what is this person trying to say by a photograph of this hall. So the way we process, the way these fancy data platforms are working today may not even exist a year later. They will all change. Either they will be more nuanced or some other competitor will come and eat them up, for sure. But completely agree with your both point of views that one, bias exists. It is, and it's very difficult to go away unless you have a very mature data organization. And second, yes, the form and the way we define data may go away, but eventually it is what is feeding your insights. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
So, no more lucky questions.
Yeah, so I can
wind up the panel.
We can take the questions, offline. I know there are so many questions to be asked by all the audience. So let's move ahead and conclude the session. So can we have a big round of applause for all the speakers who have joined in today?
So thank you, panelists, for your valuable insights. And I would ask Mitali to come on the stage and do the felicitation.
So can we have a group photograph? So everyone, please stand up, and to our photographers, please.
You want us to come down? I think you get a better down.
No, here only. I think, yeah, it will be fine here. So one with this CEO itself. Okay, so this certificate of appreciation goes to Anupama, Rajesh. Can we have a huge round of applause, please? Next we have Sonia Thakurani. Miss Anjum Khan. I know you all are feeling hungry, but please be a support. Ranjan, Bhasin. Mr. Deepesh, Rastogi. Come on, a big one. Sahil, Mungar.